China says a mechanism for long-term stabilization of the property market is now a priority. What impact will this have on the real estate market? And soon, renters will have some of the same rights as owners, such as permission to attend local schools without a local hukou. What challenges will the new policy face? Just over 5,000 residential units sold in Beijing this month, a decline of 26% monthly and 69% yearly. This volume is the lowest since 2014. Is the decline a sign of housing market inflation in Beijing? Where is the real estate market headed next? The Xiongan economic zone is expected to absorb a large number of enterprises and a chunk of the capital's population in the future, easing pressure on Beijing, which has nearly 20 million people. Will the Xiongan area live up to its potential to help decongest Beijing and calm the real estate market? From 2006 to 2016, the debt ratio of China's residents rose from 11% to 45%. How big is the real estate bubble in China? And what bubble-related risks are Chinese financial institutions facing?
In March, Beijing introduced stricter curbs to dampen surging home prices, and the property market cooled down significantly soon afterwards. Some expect Beijing house prices to drop further once the nearby Xiongan new area is built. According to a statement after a top leadership meeting on July the 24th, the government will act to stabilize the property market and prevent the systematic financial risks. What will that mean for the property market of China's capital in the coming years? To discuss the issues related to property market in Beijing, I'm pleased to be joined in the studio by Vincent Mo, board chairman of Fund.com. Professor Xiongan at the University of Hong Kong will join the discussion via satellite. That's our topic. This is Dialogue. I'm Yang Rui. Welcome to Dialogue, Vincent. Now, overseas observers have long paid attention to the relationship between the government and the market, particularly regarding the property market, which is, of course, one of the hallmarks for China's economic performance. Now, what do you think of the so-called balanced approach that can be best achieved through the current policy measures, such as guaranteeing the stability and the continuity of a long-term mechanism so that no housing prices will spin out of control? However, at the same time, those skeptical observers at home and abroad say they are concerned about overreaction from the authorities. I'd like to have your thoughts.
Well, we have seen lots of changes since about a year ago from the government and from the market as well. China's property market or markets have always been a regulated market. It's not a free market. And I think that it is right to treat the market like that. We have to regulate the market, and at the same time we have to use the market force to make sure, we have a rule to stick to. So up to today, I think the regulations have been successful, and the indicators are really the prices and the volume as well. We had a big price jump last year, and since the Spring Festival in February of this year to today, we are seeing the price has been stabilized, especially in the major cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, these major cities. And transaction volume, it's slowing down a little bit, but it's still there. That's something government want to say. They want to see the price is stabilized, but the transaction volume still keeps there. And that's for the Tier 1 cities. For Tier 2 cities, and the situation, the price has been keep on going up, but it's under control. And volume is huge, comparing to last year. For the 3rd tier and 4th tier market, and that's something I think the government has achieved their goal. They want to destock the properties, and that happened.
Hello, Mr. Xiao. Vincent has drawn a pretty rosy picture about the effects of the policy regulations, but it seems it's difficult to convince observers that everything is fine, everything works out perfectly as scheduled. From the point of view of an observer in Hong Kong, do you think you can somehow offer a more balanced analysis?
Yes, from Hong Kong, I think the Chinese property market is actually quite healthy overall. There are strong market signals. The first tier cities, the price are going up very strong, but in remote cities, the price is going down. And one problem, I think, for Beijing, for other places, is something which Hong Kong had a long time ago. The problem is really the low-income housing. Hong Kong, half of the population actually enjoy low-income housing subsidies, and that in China they have just started. So in Hong Kong, here we have two-tier property market. The market tier actually price fluctuates and usually goes very high. But for the subsidized housing, the government has a lot of influence. So in a way, I think China and big cities in China, they are now trying to learn from Hong Kong, particularly in providing subsidized rental housing.
I would love to have a very quick analysis about the case study. Wanda, the Dalian Wanda Group, China's largest commercial property company, which on July the 10th sold 76 hotels and 91% of the 13 tourism projects to developer Sunac China, whose board president is Sun Hongbin, for $9.3 billion. Wanda said that funds will be used to reimburse most of its bank loans, resulting in an asset-light operation. Now, this has generated a lot of front-page stories. It's a pretty sensational story. I'd like to have your thoughts about what that means for the prospects of the Chinese property market.
Okay, let's look at the deal, the transaction, in two ways. One way is for the parties, for Wanda and Sunac. I think it's a win-win game for both of them. And Wanda, I think Wang Jianning, the chairman, it's my thinking, he may not be interested in developing properties one after another for a longer time. He's kind of, I think he's tired of this developing process. So he wants to do something different, which is asset-light operations. So that's his intention. So it's very good for him. He can damp or he can sell his heavy asset operations or assets to other who can take care of it. So that's a one win for Wanda. On the other hand, Sun Hongbin, the chairman of Sunac China, and he's very ambitious. He wants to be the number one, players or developers in China. So this is the best way he can do it. He can make it happen in a short period of time. Other than this, there's probably no other way to do that. So that's why I think it's a win-win game for both of the parties. On the other hand, the implication to the market or to the industry, I think I can see from the transaction that the industry or the market of China's property is becoming much more mature comparing to 10 years ago or even longer time ago. Mature is that it's not only a development stuff. It is a kind of a transaction, buy, sell properties, restructuring the organizations of the enterprises, the developers. So I can see into the future the concentration rate. The market concentration will become, more higher and higher, and fewer developers or big players. They're going to take a big chunk of China's property market or China's development, market. So that's another implication for the market. And a third implication is really, I believe, this is right for the market. Because the big players, I believe most of them are more, responsible to the consumers' demand. They are, although they may make a bigger profit, but it's still they're more and more, be conscious to the quality of the properties, the products, and also the after sales, services.
A couple of years back, Li Ka-shing, the richest guy in Hong Kong, sold most of his properties in the mainland, and that released a powerful signal to those who followed his maneuvers that golden days of China's housing market are over. And his maneuvers were very quickly followed by the richest guy of the mainland, Wang Jianlin, chairman of the Dalian Wanda Group. So one after another, the 12 balloons delivered a very clear message of Mr. Xiongan that indeed any more investment in the property market would have to be given a second thought, and people got to be very, very cautious about revenue that can be easily generated, or easy money may no longer be the case compared with 5 or 6 years ago. So what do you think of concerns that are shared by mainland observers?
Well, this is true. The property market has been growing so rapid and the price jumped so much. And that's largely because the supply side difficulties. There are a lot of first-tier cities. There are so many people coming in, especially high-income people. So that's why there are a lot of windfall profits made in the past. And going into future, and this is going to be changed because the government is going to reform the supply side by providing more rental housing and other adjustment. So I think going to the future, the property market will be more stable and healthier, and the demand side, controls may be relaxed, but the supply side will be much more rational. And also the deleveraging for developers are crucial because the financial sector also is in the process of rationalization and reducing the leverage. So this is actually good news for the future and for most housing buyers, in China.
Economists and property developers both complain that it is actually government at different levels who should take much of the blame for the surge in housing prices. For example, it's more difficult to purchase land after a heyday of land revenue is over for most of the local governments, and therefore not only housing prices have risen rapidly, but people turn increasingly to the transaction volume of what we call the used homes or second-hand homes. In this particular area, in the second case for the second-hand homes, Mr. Xiongan, in the first 6 months this year, for example, second-hand home sales in Beijing decreased more than 30% compared to the same period in 2016. And the price of second-hand homes declined 1.1% month on month, recording the first 2 straight month declines since October 2014. What do you think of the message that's been released from such a decline in the second home price?
Well, I think this is temporary in the sense that because a lot of demand-side restrictions from the government to stabilize the short-term volatility in the property market. So the transaction volume will have to decline. But I think once the price stabilized and once the supply-side reform comes out, those restrictions, short-term restrictions, might actually be lifted to allow more transactions and also allow more stable growth in the housing price and also quantity. So I see this as a healthy signal, although I think the future depends on both the supply-side reform and also on how China's economy overall will grow in the future.
Vincent, another sensational development in the mainland property market, I'm afraid, is what we call the 租售同权. It gives a special regard to the rise of housing prices near what we call the street, the school area, 学区房. So, 租售同权 in English means tenants enjoying the same rights as home buyers. The Guangzhou municipal government has moved or taken the first step in this direction, issuing a new plan to accelerate the development of the housing rental market. I know you must follow the policy change in Guangzhou. Do you think this new and latest policy option by Guangzhou government will make a sea change?
I agree. I think the new policy from Guangzhou municipal government is the first policy made by the government to make sure the renter and the owner, they have the same right to enjoy some municipality supplies or services like the education. So this is a social thing. If we go a little bit further, other than the social equality of the rights, whether you are buyer or you are the renter, and there are other implications to the property market. But I will not expect that the price of the education so-called property is going to go to drop. I think because if you rent, you can enjoy the same right for the education, and many people will go to rent. And the end will be in the renter will go up sharply. And if the renter goes up sharply, and which will lead the price, if you own it, if you want to buy it, the price will go sharply. So this will not lead to the price drop at all. So that's one thing. On the other hand, and this may need to, for those investors, who are not going to own it, who are not going to reside in the properties, for the investors, they're going to spend more money to buy the good school area properties. So that will be an opportunity for those investors to do that. But going forward, I think for some mature countries, international market like in the U.S., you can enjoy the education, service of the city, whether you rent or you own the property. So I think that is a trend, and I think in China, although Guangzhou is the first mover in this direction, I think, and more and more cities will follow this direction, and it's also, as far as I know, it's also encouraged by the central government to do that.
There must be some policy incentives to encourage this pilot program that has been introduced, first of all, by the Guangdong municipal government. Having said this, Mr. Xiao, hello, Mr. Xiao. Now, Mr. Xi Jinping said recently at a top leadership meeting that housing or home buying should first of all aim to provide those in need with a shelter, not to provide those who want to make speculative investment. 房子是用来住的，不是为了投机的。I mean, this may have delivered a very important policy signal to prospective investors as well as those who want to buy homes, either for the first or the second home. Now, what do you think of the impact of this decision by the highest Chinese authorities here?
Well, I think this is a very important signal in the sense that when people buy property, they should think first that they should not use this as a speculation, because in the future the housing for living can be provided not just by commercial property market, but also by a lot of heavily subsidized rental markets, like what happens in Hong Kong and other places. And this basically will end the period where, because the not mature the property market in China, a lot of people made huge profits in the property markets.
Thank you so much. Vincent and Xiongan, you are watching dialogue about the latest development in the property market. Vincent Mo, board chairman of Fang.com, and Professor Xiongan at the University of Hong Kong. This is a very meaningful discussion about an important hallmark concerning China's sustainable and resilient economic performance here. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back, Vincent. On March the 17th, Beijing introduced the strictest curbs in history in order to dampen surging home prices. Here are the details. The minimum down payment ratio for second homes was raised to 60% from 50%, while those who don't own a home in Beijing but have housing loan records are also to be regarded as second home buyers. What will happen to Beijing's housing market if the government continues these strict real estate policies?
Actually, if we're talking about the Beijing market, there are three things recently happened which can impact the property market in Beijing seriously. One is the curbing policy you just mentioned, and the increase of the 60% in the down payment you need to pay before you can apply for a loan. And the other is Xiongan area in the.
We'll come back to examine the impact of Xiongan area.
Okay, that's another second factor. The third factor is recent, the leadership's meeting on the 24th about to stabilize the property market. So for the first thing, back to your question, is really, I think this definitely will decrease the demand of the property market in Beijing. So that's for sure, because if people want to buy properties, there are two factors. One, you want to buy. Secondly, you are capable to buy it. You have the money to buy it. 60% down payment is lots of money, and especially after the price of the property price in Beijing increased so much. So if the demand decreases, and definitely, the basic economic rules, the price will definitely go down. So that's really happening now in the short period of time. We have seen, sequentially the price has been going down, and also comparing to last year's same period of time, the price has been going down. Both the new market and the resale market, and increasing the volume also going down. So in the short period of time to the end of the year, I think the trend will be like this, going up. But in the longer run, Beijing is Beijing. Beijing is different. It's the capital of China, and China is growing. The general economy is stable and growing again. So I believe in the longer run, Beijing's property market is still going to be very promising. I'm very, very confident in Beijing's market into the future.
Let's look at the Xiongan new area. A couple of months back, Beijing announced that it will remove the city's non-capital functions, and Tongzhou district in the southeast is quickly emerging as the city's subsidiary administrative center or sub-center of Beijing will soon be established. In addition, extensive measures have been taken to cap population growth in downtown areas. Now, what do you make of the impact of this policy announcement?
I think the impact of Xiongan is multiple. And if specifically for property market and specifically for Beijing market, actually Xiongan has impacted Beijing, Hebei, and Tianjin, three areas a lot. Specifically for Beijing, and I think number one, and the demand is going to, into the future, is going to slow down, and comparing to the current trend. And people or some organizations, they will move out of Beijing to Xiongan new area.
Are you suggesting clearly, if not giving a piece of advice, that we should dump off multiple properties at this moment as quickly as possible?
Well, that's another question. I'm going to get to there. And that's number one. And number two, well, that's the short thing. And also number two, the expectation of people. We buy things, properties. People expect the future. And with Xiongan, the concept there and the people's expectation of the property price is going to go down. So that's going to affect the market, the mood of the market secondary. And thirdly, I think we need to consider, again, Beijing is Beijing. Beijing is the capital. Everybody wants to come to Beijing. So even if people might move out and people might move to Xiongan, and there is still a huge demand, for Beijing properties. So in the short period of time, I think it's going to impact Beijing's price and the volume as well, which is good for stabilizing the Beijing property market. But in the longer run, I still believe, in the longer run, Beijing's property market will be good.
Let me go back to Xiongan for his points of view on the future of a Xiongan new area. Here in the Beijing studio, Vincent pointed out that housing prices will somehow decline due to the weak demand as a result of the construction boom in Xiongan, which is 100 kilometers away from both Beijing and Tianjin. Having said this, observers may point out, Mr. Xiao, that whether there will be robust demand in Beijing, because Vincent emphasized over and over that Beijing is, after all, Beijing is the capital city, is the first-tier city. Given the steady performance of the Chinese economy, Beijing will maintain its resilience as the capital city. Now, what do you think of, say, jobs for the young people who come to Beijing. They come here not to enjoy the comforts of life. They come here for jobs. Now, if most of the functions of the capital city have been removed or relocated to Tongxian, a satellite county in Beijing, do you believe the demand for a house in the capital city or in Beijing will still be as robust as ever?
I think demand on housing in Beijing continues to be very, very strong. But the question is that when there are alternatives available, like in Tongzhou and Xiongan, then people will make choices. They make balances. If it's really too expensive in Beijing, then they will consider to move to Tongzhou or Xiongan. But Xiongan is a long-term project, so it's going to take a considerable amount of time.
One
to
decade
really
at least.
A new city.
Yeah, for the economic takeoff.
Yes, so that's very, very far away for most people. So I think the fact that Beijing's housing price is going up in the past and probably will continue to go up means people will consider alternatives more and more as the price in central cities like Beijing, and other global cities, when the center of the city price goes up, then people will consider move further away. So this is a global trend, and I think that Xiongan is a long-term plan which is necessary in the long run, and Tongzhou is probably a short-term plan so that greater Beijing area can accommodate more young people.
We have debated for a long time as to Xiongan new area will be a serious match for Shanghai's Pudong or Guangdong's Shenzhen, because in these two cases we have seen good stories of success. However, Xiongan is a very different version. Having said this, what do you think of the enormous measures that have been taken or are being taken by Beijing and the central government to phase out most of the functions of the capital city, like removing and relocating most of the state-owned enterprises from Beijing to Tongzhou and to the neighboring area? This threatens to seriously reduce job vacancies in Beijing itself. What do you think of the impact, Mr. Xiao?
Well, for Xiongan, this is really not just a long-term plan, but also a very innovative strategical plan. Because for most Chinese cities, you build from history gradually. But Xiongan is a brand new city like Shenzhen, but different from Shenzhen in the sense that now China has a very clear view about its future growth model. Basically emphasizing sustainability, inclusivity, and in a way also smart city. So this is really a window of opportunity to create a new city for next century. It's not very clear how this is going to be built, but given the rapid development of technology and the rise of China, anything is possible. Of course, it's going to take time and take really commitment from the central government, and also provide incentives from the market. So I think we are still in the early stage of planning, and everything has not been so clear now. And I think the market are watching, but this definitely is a opportunity for China to showcase its growth model in the future.
Well, that's our discussion about the prospects of the Chinese real estate market. Who knows what's going to happen next? Predictability, all the other way around remains a big issue for those observers. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.